Welcome back to the JCS Podcast with maybe a catchy name pending, but as of right now, just the JCS Podcast. We're happy to be back. If you missed my announcement at the end of the last pod, I kind of tapped it in. New baby boy Leland James born.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Mr. Ponstein.
Family.
Thank you, Mr. Ponstein. Not getting much sleep, but enough sleep to function.
I'm impressed that you're here.
Thank you.
I thought I would have a sub for the next 6 weeks.
Well, no one can do it quite like we can do it, right? But kicking it right off to Mr. Ponstein, like always, give us some Eagle news.
Eagle news, we start with sports, and folks, there is a slew of news here. Let's go with golf. Last podcast, we talked about the golf tournament, and by golly, our kids showed up and played well.
Balled out.
Yeah, absolutely. Lucas Van Manen, congratulations to him, an 8th grader, tied for first place with a score of a 45. This is through 9 holes, folks. Ty Westorp, just short of the podium, but shot a 48. Drew Lubin got 3rd place as a 7th grader with a 51. And Taryn Landers got a 3rd place score with a 77 for the 8th grade girls. Congratulations, not to just these golfers, but the other, really all 8 of our golfers that had a great showing on that Saturday.
And we all have fun, right? That's the real one.
Oh, man. Just being out on a golf course, 89 students, I tell you, the atmosphere was unbelievable. Parents, coaches, teachers.
Electric.
You got to be there next year. Next, we go to volleyball. The volleyball season is almost done, but guess what? Tournament time starts Friday. That's tomorrow, October 16. Good luck to our 8th grade girls and their braids. Next, soccer. Soccer underdogs earlier this week against Hudsonville Christian. They end up tying them 3-3. What a dogfight.
Down 3-1, too.
Were they down 3-1?
Down 3-1, 2 goals in the last 2 minutes. Big time.
Talk about finishing a game. And lastly of our sports update is football. Football with a great win. They travel an hour northeast to Belding, Michigan. If you don't know where that is, go by Rockford and just keep on going. But anyways, a 23-14 win even after their travels. I don't think they got home till about 10 o'clock at night. And then I assigned homework. That is brutal.
Belding is practically the Upper Peninsula. It's way out there.
Pretty much.
It's way out there.
I don't even know where it is. Congratulations to the 8th grade football team for that victory. Mr. DeVries, I hear there's a fundraiser?
We do. We have a fundraiser. I have the flyer here, and I'm hungry just looking at it. It is new to the JCS community, and this is the JCS Holiday Dessert Sale. I'm just sitting here looking at pies.
Stop.
If someone wants to order one and give it to me, maybe Mr. Ponstein, I just need to order it for myself, but I will take a gift of a holiday pie. Payments due Monday, November 2, and you will get your pie by Tuesday, November 17, in time for the holidays.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, is there like cinnamon rolls as well? I think there might be cinnamon rolls too in there.
You know, it's got a little bit of everything. Oh, I'm seeing it now. Cinnamon rolls, apple dumplings.
Yep.
You got your cherry pies. You got your classics, but you're right. I had to look a little bit, but yes, cinnamon rolls too.
Count me in on some cinnamon rolls. Oh, that sounds good.
So for those of you at home, that's 1 cinnamon roll for Mr. Ponstein, and you know what? I'll just take a cherry pie.
Perfect.
Mr. Ponstein.
Delicious.
The fans want it.
Absolutely.
Joke of the day.
You're waiting for it, folks. I know you are. You have to muster in 4 minutes of this podcast just to get the joke of the day so you can tell your kids and grandkids and maybe a neighbor.
We bury it on purpose because
That's right.
we know people are hanging around just for this.
You got to stay on, folks. Okay, you ready? Joke of the day number 3. What animal falls from the clouds? And I'm laughing just thinking about it.
I actually don't know this one. What animal falls from the clouds? I don't know.
It's not a bird. It's not a plane. It's a reindeer. Deer.
Play on words.
You gotta love it.
You gotta love it.
And I gotta do a little shout out to Mr. Powell for suggesting that one. He's also a dad too.
Another dad.
It makes sense.
Another
right?
dad. It's running deep in his blood already.
Absolutely. Oh, well, folks, still stick around, even though the joke of the day is done, because now we're gonna kind of switch gears here a little bit and talk about more faith-related topic. And next week we have parent-teacher conferences. We have our teachers' convention, and this is a week where, as a staff and community, we are focusing on how do we improve our practice? Where are we at right now as a school? How do we move forward? And this is a practice that should be done in any profession or just in any walk of life. We should always be examining ourselves, always be looking for ways to improve, having a growth mindset. And so next week is going to be a huge focus in our school and community. And one verse from Scripture that really, I think, talks about this is Colossians 3. It talks about that whatever we do, we work at it with all of our hearts, working for the Lord, not for men. So even with some time off next week for students and maybe not the normal day schedule for us as a staff, we're still going to work at it with all of our hearts, and we're still going to now work for a goal for growth for the future, not only for us teaching, but for our students and their learning as well.
Something I think about a lot too, of like just a nice week that changes pace. And maybe you guys have that if you're not teachers, if you're students, like something where a week just changes pace on you, where, you know, maybe it's not just the same thing that you've always done, and just the opportunity for growth that provides. And the verse that Mr. Poundstein used, I like to use with my students all the time, of like how can whatever you do, you work at it with all of your heart, and that you're not working because the teacher told you to do it, or we're not trying to improve because someone's telling us to improve, but we're trying to improve because we know that these gifts that God has given us, and we want to use those gifts to the best of our abilities. And oftentimes I pray with my students just how thankful we can be for a place like Jenison Christian that grows our minds and grows our God-given gifts that God has given us. And this is just a great week for maybe students to rest, refresh, to grow in different ways, and for us as teachers to grow in the ways that God has gifted us to.
And now I think about it as even from a faith standpoint as well, that we constantly need to be growing in our faith. I think of in the book of Hebrews. We're not going back to the joke of the day from a few weeks ago. I'm talking about the book Hebrews in the Bible. There's in Hebrews 10, it talks about how we need to spur one another on, encouraging one another. In Hebrews 12, it talks about how we are surrounded by a great cloud of witnesses. So there's people in our lives that we need to learn from, and that can be, as a teacher, that can be learning from other teachers or other staff that's on our that's in our community. Or if you look at it from a faith perspective, it is encouraging one another. It is surrounding with like-minded believers to have a greater cause in this journey of our faith, right? Faith is a journey. It's not just a one high mountaintop experience. It is mountains, it's valleys, it's in between. And so we need each other. We need some different pace every once in a while to examine our hearts, examine our lives, and seeing if they're aligned, if it's aligning with Christ.
I read a book over the summer, and it had a great quote that I always want to share with my students, and I haven't yet. But the quote was, it asked people of, hey, when did you learn how to read? When was the time you knew how to read or knew how to dribble a basketball? And the thought was, just like you said, growth mindset, is that really when you get down to it, there's hardly a time when it's just like, if you say first grade I learned how to read, well, did you really know how to read perfectly? Well, no, it's a skill you kept developing, you kept learning, you kept growing on it. In faith, there might be a time where you're like, this is when I first came to know Christ. You could do that. But to ask someone, when were you perfect at faith? everyone would say, no, I'm still working on it. I'm still growing. So just like that in learning to read or dribble a basketball, even the best players would say, I haven't arrived at dribbling a basketball. There's still things I want to improve. And I think this week models in our lives that we haven't arrived at how good we want to be as a school community and teachers and students. And as Mr. Ponstein brought it to our faith, we never arrive in our faith, and we always want to continually grow and become more and more like Christ.
So I think that's our final conclusion of this podcast is I encourage you to spur one another on. I encourage you to persevere in this walk of life, whether it's your profession, whether it's your faith, whether it's in your family. You can do it.
Thanks again for listening to the JCS Podcast. If you feel like you can help tell the story of Jenison Christian, please reach out to me or Mr. Ponstein. Music on here is by Kai Gun Soul.